The season's winding down, Michael. We've only got a little bit left. Dallas had their second to last game against Washington, got away with a win. It's a one-score game, but it did feel like they played pretty well on offense, at least. Your defense is still kind of your defense. They have a few good players making individual good plays here and there, but as a whole, kind of struggled. Feels like a story we've said a few times this year, and we might say it again today. So, yeah, your run game worked well, I felt like. But first things first, let's just get into what you think was the cause of your success in this game.
Well, I mean, getting up early, I think, was the big part, and that came from a multiple kind of angle thing. Dak looked great in the first half. Got some passes completed. Turpin can run faster than any other human being, as it turns out, and so he had that big 86-yard catch. I'm always amazed that we only give him like one touch a game, but he makes the most of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like we were able to get Jake Ferguson a catch in the end zone. Like you said, our run game was working. I think we had more Javante running a lot, I think, in the first half. And so, yeah, there were a lot of things going in the first half, but I think the key there was really getting on the board early. Because I think the second half, the tone of the whole game shifted pretty heavily. So there's that. On the defensive side, I feel like we did enough. We did enough. It was not like I think you kind of suggested we did not do extraordinarily well at anything against the mighty Josh Johnson. But we got enough done. This is the kind of team and the kind of quarterback where I would hope that we could get some pressure on and all of that. We really didn't. So that's kind of the part of it that I wish we had done better. We can dig more into that. But as far as success goes, we did really hold them in the run. I know it's 38 yards. We were talking right before this a little bit about, it's half of their yards were one run, which is impressive. Krosky Merritt has had a few of these this year where when he's gone, if he's got daylight, you're not seeing him again.
Yeah.
Which is impressive. But yeah, I think that's how I view it, is like we against the passing game we were okay, but we're still giving up that big the big play. The big play is what hurts us. But outside of that, on the play to play, we did pretty decent.
Yeah, it's true. This game was closer than maybe it really looks. Like 30-23 is already a one-score game. But one of the things we talked about earlier was y'all went 6 for 6 on fourth down, and any one of those might have derailed this game. I think you had one drive with 3 fourth down conversions in it early in the game. But yeah, that has definitely been a recipe for your success when you've had success this year, is when you've been able to score early. The first game against the Commanders much earlier this year, he had 27 points in the first half. This game, it was 24, but still you're able to get off to that fast start that every team says that they want. They ask him, what's your strategy? I was like, well, we want to get off to a fast start. It's like no one ever says, let's just taper into this thing. So you were able to have some success there, and it's a good thing, because I imagine you took your foot off the gas. And we've talked about your second half adjustments not being great on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not sure your offense is doing a great job of really adjusting in the second half. But again, maybe it's just the whole, you start playing much more conservative. We're just going to run the ball 30 times in the second half and come what may. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
We won't see for much longer, but we'll see. There were a lot of penalties in this game, 21. There were some costly ones, but with so many, it makes me just assume that it was relatively even. Of course, there can always be one, not all penalties are created equal.
Yeah.
Did you feel like those really shaped the game, or was this more just like there were just a lot of penalties?
I mean, one could say that they shaped the game, but I felt like they were pretty even, right? So, so to me, if you're calling the same thing on both sides, both people are doing it, both people are getting called, that's fine, right? To me, that's like the strike zone in baseball. As long as you're calling it consistent on both sides, we're good. And to me, that's how the game felt. There were probably, when it's your team, there's a couple of calls you're like, I don't think that was the right call, right? And on the other team, I'm sure they're feeling the exact same way, and you would say, no, that was the right call. So I think there's give and take there. I did not feel like it was egregiously lopsided towards any team. But as you said, there's a lot of penalties to go with on that game. So yeah, outside of the fact that like you were already pointing out, we had all these fourth down tries that we had to do. and did, which was great. Which is not a pretty game. When you have 6 fourth round tries that you have so that you can win in a 1-score game against an opponent you really shouldn't be working this hard at, that's not pretty. It's functional. But then on top of that, you layer in the 400 penalties. It's also not pretty either. So, yeah, it's a sloppy game, I think, by both teams in many regards. I just think the Commanders have excuses for why they're looking sloppy with a backup quarterback in. We don't really have as much on that. And one other area to give them credit, and things that probably you could say went well. Now, I understand that they gave up 30 points, but it felt like their strategy in this game was just, we're going after Dak Prescott all the time. We're going all the time. Which, they had 6 sacks and 11 QB hits. That's a lot of pain. But then on top of that, I think it forced us to run, which worked out great for us. Malik Davis, they did a pretty decent job, not a great job, a decent job with Javonte. But Malik Davis, I think he had a 20-yard run, but I mean the other 100 yards, he worked for. Not that you don't work on a 20-yard run, but it just forced us into a ground game, but the ground game worked. In fact, the ground game was probably more effective than our passing game. So, it's like, I still think they deserve some credit. They kept them in that game. Their defense did. So I'm just giving them props there because I felt like that at least went fairly well on their side of the ball.
Yeah, I agree. Despite the points, I thought their defense did some good things. It just didn't roll out their way. You guys had the big explosive plays that set yourself apart here, the big Turpin run and so on. Like you had 7 guys with a double-digit yard catch kind of thing, like big plays were happening left and right. So they were, but at the same time, Dak was just over 50% completion percentage with his weaponry about as intact as we've seen all season. So they did some things right. It just, you were able to get the big plays. And again, those 4th down conversions were huge. So I think Washington fans, they're kind of like Arizona fans. They're just waiting for the season to end so we can, get even better for next year and then try to hit it again. Because, we fell from 8 wins to 3 so far. I'm probably going to stay at 3. They went from 12 wins to 4. So they've got to be thinking, like, can we please get out of this season and just get on to the next one? And soon enough, we will, we are almost there. They get one more Eagles game, I believe, and then they're looking for the draft. And you get one more game, I believe, against the Giants, which we'll get to maybe a little bit later this week. In short, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to root for the Giants here because of draft reasons. But
understand.
It won't hurt you. So, but we'll get into that one a bit more later. Were there any players in particular, like one player you want to give like the game ball to for this game?
Well, Old Man Clowney comes to mind. Like we were talking about his performance. He had a 1.5 sacks coming out of this game. For a guy who, notably was sitting on a couch somewhere, not planning to play football this year for the first 3 games of the season. I think he's at 5.5 sacks. If he picks up one more, or half, but he's at 6 sacks. That's pretty great production for a guy you're just bringing in to kind of platoon that defensive end role. And I think it also discounts, like, he was never, to me, he was not ever really the biggest sack guy. He was he's a big force behind the line. He does more than just go and get sacks. So I guess he's the guy in this game that I might say, hey, here's the game ball. I get it. It's Josh Johnson. It's not, Jalen Hurts that you were taking down or somebody like that. But, nice work. I think he's probably earned it. Malik Davis would have been the other person I think to potentially pass that off to. Just, he had a great outing. A lot of kind of workhorse yardage. So, but I'll stick with Clowney, I think, overall.
Yeah, it's been really fun to watch him this year. There have been a few older returning players that we've been happy with. Little as I have to celebrate on the Cardinals, we have our own little older player, is nearly our age. He's playing pretty well this season. And Clowney's not that old yet, but he did have a great little season. We'll see if he decides to play again next year. It'll be a fun off season in some ways. It'll be less fun in others. But yeah, it'll be fun to get into the off season for both teams coming up. So, well, really, unless you got anything else, let's call this one. Let's wrap this up.
Nope, just one more of these for the Cowboys to do, talking about them Giants. So yeah, nope, be good.
Yeah, but it's the final countdown for our season. So, but yeah, it'll be fun to get into that last game. We'll do that a bit later this week, I hope. But until then, thanks everyone for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the Cowboys winning this game. And if you didn't and you were a Washington fan, I'm sorry. The season's almost over, and you can get back to maybe your winning ways next year with a healthy roster. We'll see how that all looks. Everyone's going to have an interesting offseason with moves and all that. It's always entertaining. So until then, hope you have a fantastic New Year's coming up on that real soon here, and stay warm. And it's not challenging in a lot of parts in the country right now. So, but yeah, stay warm, and I hope you have a great day.